So here we're talking about the game clock. And the game clock is something that seems easy. I mean, there's really only two things you can do to it. You can start the clock, or you can stop the clock. But in actuality, the game clock is one of the most difficult things to master as an official because there's so many different conflicting events that can happen to cause the clock to start or to stop. When does it start again? When does it stop again? But so we have right here, this is part of the handout for the lesson. It kind of gives you a brief synopsis of when we start the clock and the stopping of the clock. If we look at here, it times to start the clock. Legally, when the ball is touched legally after a free kick, even if it's for 1 second, but we'll talk about that later, but when the ball is touched legally after a free kick, we start the clock. When the ball is snapped, if the clock is stopped. So if you have a live ball in play that has been snapped, the clock should be running. And again, at the ready for play, if the clock was only stopped because A was awarded a first down and otherwise the clock would have continued to run. That's a kind of difficult one, it's kind of wordy, but we'll look at it in a game film a little bit later on and make it a little bit clearer. So now once the clock is running, we talk about the clock stoppers. And there's two basic categories of clock stoppers. There's the major clock stoppers, which stop the clock no matter what. And there's the minor clock stoppers, which are really only officials' timeouts, and those kind of stop the clock for just a little bit. So when we say a major clock stopper, it means the clock is stopped until one of these three things happens again. And when we say a minor clock stopper, it really means that the clock is stopped, but only until that stoppage has been dealt with. So if we go through them, a major clock stopper, a timeout is called by either team. That stops the clock. It will not stop until the ball is put in play legally again. A live ball goes out of bounds. That's a classic time to stop the clock, and nothing changes that. A legal or illegal forward pass is incomplete. Same thing. Easy peasy. Team A is awarded a new series. High school football and college football, it's the same type of thing. If A is awarded a new series, we stop the clock to reset the chains. Now, teams B or R end the play in possession of the ball. That means you've had a turnover or a kick on the play. That team R recovers and has ended the play in that possession. In both those cases, we will stop the clock. And this is a high school rule that if there's a fourth down play, no matter what happens at the end of that play, the clock will stop. No matter what, if you have a fourth down play, the clock will stop. Now we're going to talk about the minor clock stoppers. So minor clock stoppers really pertain to, you can really put them all into officials' timeouts. So let's say we had a penalty on the play. So we would stop the clock after the play. If we deal with the penalty, administer it, whatever we need to do, then we'd ask, how did the play end? If it's something that kept the clock live, we're going to go back to a live clock. If it's something that had the clock dead, we're going to keep the clock dead. So these all clock stoppers, injury, water breaks, equipment repair, any other unusual day, if you have a coach's conference, all these things that we can generally classify as official timeouts, those all are minor clock stoppers where the clock will revert back to its status after that issue has been dealt with. What we're going to look at here is a video of this Monday Night Football game from 1985. This is an NFL game. The good thing about this, you really can't find a lot of videos online of just full, uncut game footage. So this is actually the television broadcast, which gives you a lot of the in-between plays and all that stuff. So this is an NFL game rule, so there are some rules that we won't have that are the same. I'll make note of those whenever we see them. But the clock is if we would have it set up for a high school game. So we'll watch this game, it will speed up certain parts that we don't need, but you'll see the clock down there in the corner the whole time. So we'll go through that just for this game. So you can see here we're getting ready for a legal kick. The kick goes off, it's in the air, so the clock hasn't started. And this would be a touchback for us, but once the ball crosses the goal line, nothing started. So the play clock still, or the game clock still isn't moving. We've got the game clock sitting there until we get a legal snap to start the play. So you see the offense is coming up. They're getting ready to go. And we have a snap, the clock starts, and then we also have an incomplete pass, so the clock stops. Okay, so right there, we've been at this game for over a minute now. We've had 3 seconds turn off the clock, so the game clock doesn't come near as close to running as real time is, but that's one thing we have to deal with. But you see here again, we're running, we're getting ready for a legal snap. The clock starts in legal snap. We've got a running play where nothing happened. So now the clock is running. You see everything's moving here. once again, the game clock is running. It's a third down play. Let's see what happens. In the play, we have an incomplete pass, so the clock stops once again. Now we'll run through this. It's going to be moving pretty quickly. And looks like the team's going to be punting. So we know that after this play, especially in high school football, because it's a fourth down play, we're going to be stopping the clock at the end of the play no matter what. So here we have a kick again. The game clock is running. This ball's bouncing around. You have a little bit first touching there, which is covered, and then you got some stuff here at the end of the play. But the clock stops when the ball goes out of bounds. So now the offense is going to be taking the field. The game clock still hasn't run. We're kind of ready for play. We're ready for the offense to go. We'll see what happens here with the offense. It'll be the same type of situation where they're lining up to take a play. And then we have a play, we have a drop back, a pass that is incomplete, so the clock stops. Now in this play, there's something that happened. This play, there was a penalty, so the clock is stopped. And if we talk about this, we have a penalty, so we have two clock stoppers on the same play. We have a major and a minor. We have an incomplete pass, and we have a penalty. So they both stop the clock, so the clock is stopped. So the penalty, we would enforce the penalty. Once we're done with that minor clock stoppage, we go back to what was the original stoppage, which was an incomplete pass, which is a minor clock stopper, so the clock stays stopped until the next play. Now, if we would have had a running play on that play with an accepted penalty, we would have done the same thing. We would have stopped the clock during the penalty administration, but since the clock was running, we would have kept the clock running after we did the penalty administration. So we have another running play. The clock keeps going. Not anything really different going on here. As you can tell, a lot of games you're going to have times where the clock is just running, and that's okay. Clock's running. We're going to keep officiating the game, make sure nothing different's going on. But we just need to make sure we're during the play, see if something stops the clock is important. Like right there, incomplete pass. That's a major clock stopper. No issue. The clock is stopped. So we'll go through. We're in more dead ball periods where the clock is stopped. You'll be doing your dead ball officiating now, counting offense, defense, making sure the line of scrimmage is correct, all that type of stuff. So we've got a third and long, so we can probably read a pass play, which we're getting. Come around, and then we see here, we have a pass play for a completion for a first down. So now we have a completion for a first down in the field of play. But so now the clock stops because we have a first down. But since the clock would have run, once we have the ready for play like we had right there, the clock starts running again. As you can see, we come through here. And we have another running play. The clock is going to keep going. And it'll keep running. So now we're having another play, and on this play there's something different that happens. We have a pass play, we have a completion, we have a run, and we have a touchdown. So once the player crosses the line of scrimmage and we're sure it's a touchdown, we stop the clock, and that clock is going to be stopped for a good long while because you can see what we have here. We have an extra point, try, kick, but there's a penalty on the play, so they've got to re-kick it. So really, you're looking at 10 minutes about in the situation where the clock didn't start. So the ball goes down again, and we're ready for the kickoff, and we'll get the if it's another touchback, the clock won't start until the offense puts the ball in play on the 20-yard line. Once again, we have a long completion where we end up with a first down, but the play ended in bounds. So we'd stop the clock, hit the ready for play, and the play's running again. Here we have another running play that stopped. The clock will keep running. What was going on back here is back in the old Orange Bowl, that was the closed end. And if you ever went to a game there, it could be extremely loud, and the Bears players are complaining that the game was too loud, but the rules say nothing about how loud a game can be. So if this was to happen in a game, it's going to tell the player or the coach, you got to play with it. Crowd noise is something you're going to have to deal with. So you can see there we had a first down on that play. Here's the ball short of the goal line, so the play is stopped. We get ready for play. And we'll start the game clock there again. So the game clock is running because it was a running play inbounds. And here we get a touchdown on the play, so the clock is stopped on the touchdown. Now on this play, you're going to see an NFL rule, so you'd have a player come out of the end zone with the ball. So let's just say he caught the ball at the 1 for our purposes, and he returns it well out there. So the clock stops after the legal kick, and once the snap comes, the clock will start. So now as we're coming down here, we're getting to a very important part during a high school football game. That's after 6 minutes and 30 seconds, which means we're in the water break zone. So once you cross 6:30, you'll try to look for a time period where the clock stops, such as this point right here, where the clock is stopped, where you can hit the water break. It's important to give the water break because it's mandated by the FHSAA, and that way we make sure all the players get water. It's an official's timeout, and make sure you get water so everybody has a good time on the field, and make sure nobody gets injured. So that's it for the clock.